and seconded that Amendment 264 be adopted. Remarks, Representative Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm honored to bring this amendment to the floor, which will rename the Early Learning Facilities Revolving Account and the Early Learning Facilities Development Account in honor of Ruth Kagi. You know, if I were to try to go through all the different things that she accomplished during her tenure here in the legislature, it would certainly take far more than the 3 minutes I'm allowed today. But I just wanted to touch upon just a few of her accomplishments. You know, she worked tirelessly in support of children and families. She was a force behind efforts to improve our child welfare system. She helped make ECAP an entitlement, something we're still working to accomplish, but she's the one who really got that started. She fought to provide supports and services for our state's foster children. She led the effort in 2015 for the Early Start Act, which made sure that high quality childcare was available to children across the state of Washington. And finally, the thing that really got, one of the last things that she did while she was in the legislature was spearhead the effort to create the Department of Children, Youth, and Family Services, consolidating services to children in one agency. And so far, Madam Speaker, that has been very successful. You know, Ruth was not only well known around this state in her support of early learning and efforts for children, she was nationally acclaimed for the things that she did for children in the state of Washington. I'll say one thing about her too, Madam Speaker, was the fact that there has been no legislature during my tenure here. I've worked on budgets for 10 years. And she sponsored more budget provisos than any member that I can ever recall. And that is not a challenge to our current members, by the way. You'll never reach the total that she was able to get. But Madam Speaker, just in closing, I am just so honored to bring forward this amendment to rename these funds in her honor. And I hope that we can have a unanimous vote for this amendment. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, former Representative Ruth Kagi had a reputation that I had learned about when I was first elected. And I hadn't been seated yet. It was in December before I came over and took the oath of office. And my phone rang, and of course it was just a number, and I answered it. And this voice says, "Tom, this is Ruth Kagi." And I said, "Well, it's nice to meet you." And then she went on to say that I understand that you've been selected to serve on the Early Learning Committee, which I chair. And I said, well, that's what I understand. And so we went on to talk about what the committee was about, and she welcomed me to the committee. And it was a great conversation. And when I hung up, I thought, well, I've heard a lot of things about her, and it sure didn't seem like that was fit into any of the things that I'd heard. And but as I began to serve with her, and I learned about her passion for children, and I'm not going to say that we agreed on everything, but she had passion, and I always admire people that have passion and what they believe, and she had it. And she was just so incredible to work with, because she would listen. And we might argue, and as I eventually became the assistant ranking member on that committee, and then the ranking committee member, believe me, we had a lot of conversations, and some of them somewhat terse. But I have always enjoyed my time with her. And when we came up to the legislation that the good gentleman, the 47th, talked about, creating the Department of Children, Youth, and Families, we negotiated that and worked together for several months. And I have to say, she was great to work with. We found common ground, and she understood that we needed to do that. And she would listen to me. And there would be times in the evening that it was just, we weren't getting anywhere. And I'd say, Ruth, I got to go. I'll see you tomorrow. And tomorrow morning, everybody knows I come in early, and at 6 o'clock in the morning, Ruth would walk into my office with her coffee cup in her hand and say, okay, it's morning. We got to get back to work. And we would. But we found ground. We found things we could move together. And I just have huge respect for this lady. And I think renaming this account is just an awesome idea. So I'm with the good gentleman, the 47th. I hope we can see a unanimous vote on this amendment to rename this account. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to send my gratitude to the good gentleman from the 47th, and certainly for the good lady in the 27th for bringing the amendment forward and recognizing the great work of the fierce champion that representative from the 32nd, Ruth Kagi, is still today, and certainly was during her time when she represented the 32nd. She was a fierce champion indeed, and she is a fierce champion for our youngest Washingtonians, making sure that they have a voice, making sure that they have all they need to thrive. And that's exactly what she did when she worked to move the legislation to bring forward the Early Learning Fund. And as we get to go through now, because of this amendment, every year Madam Speaker, when we look through the budget and we look at what we're going to do to support our early learners and what we're going to do to what kind of funding we're going to provide to the Early Learning Fund, we'll get to remember and be reminded that we too need to be that fierce champion for those voices that don't get to bring their own voice to the table, to making sure that they have what they need. No matter how big or small the step is. This bill is not a huge step, but it is a very important step. It increases the grant award amounts for those that are seeking to build early learning facilities, to refurbish, to renovate, or to do repairs for the early learning facilities. It is the step that we needed to bring forward to make sure that we could reach that early childhood education assistance program, ECAP program entitlement. It is what we needed to do to make sure that we're eliminating the child care deserts across our state. It is the companion of all the work that we're doing in our operating budget to make sure that every child has what they need to thrive. And we know that unless we have those facilities that actually are bringing forward all of the best brain science that we know of, making sure that we've got the facilities that can lend their hand to inclusive services and practices, making sure that they are integrating our special education needs, making sure that they have all of the resources and are built to accomplish that whole age range from, that 1 day old all the way up into all of the child care needs that we need to have in our state to make sure that not only that every child can thrive, but so can every family and so can our economy and our businesses, because we're so dependent on that. We've heard time and time again in this body that we are short on facilities, we are short on child care.
The good member has 20 seconds remaining.
So with that, and then my passion and my excitement, I'm greatly excited to bring this to you, and I ask you, Madam Speaker, to vote yes with me.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just wanted to also rise and thank this body for supporting the naming of the Early Learning Facilities Fund after Ruth Kagi, who has been a mentor to me, and as the previous speakers have said, played such a critical role for Washington State's children. For all of you, any of you who may be new and may not know what we call her, oftentimes she's referred to as the grandmother of all Washington children. She really is something special, has taught us so much about early childhood, and was a visionary in bringing forth this Early Learning Facilities Fund that so many members across this legislature have taken part in on behalf of one of their child care centers, their Boys and Girls Clubs, their YMCAs, to bring critical economic development, frankly, into their communities. The ones that are currently going on and under development have data that is very clear that without childcare, they will not have economic expansion. And these dollars are just a little bit of what the state can do to ensure that families can get the childcare that's affordable, that we can help support small businesses who are offering that childcare, that we can get our businesses up and running, and that we can have economic development and strong communities all across our state. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Further remarks? Seeing none, the question before the body is final passage of engrossed substitute House Bill 1370. The Speaker is about to start the roll call machine. The Speaker will start the roll call machine. Will the clerk please take the record?
Madam Speaker, there are 90 yeas, 7 nays, 1 excused.
Having received a constitutional majority, engrossed substitute House Bill 1370 is declared passed. The speaker would like to take a moment of personal privilege on this matter and thank the body for naming these funds after Ruth Kagi. I sat next to Representative Kagi for 8 years on the floor of the House, and I can't say any more strongly than any of you have what an education she provided on both advocacy and the topic of early childhood education. But for me, the best part of sitting next to her on the floor is that I would frequently come back after a frustrating time with an interested party or a member or some other thing related to a bill of mine, and I would plop into my chair, and then I would announce to her what I was going to do. And she would listen very quietly and carefully, and then she would look at me and say, no, you should probably not do that. And I'd like to say that you all are going to wish probably that she was here more often than is probably healthy. But she was very good at steering me in the right direction, helping to train me to, I think, be a good legislator and to be thoughtful and to maintain relationships. Now, I would also tell you that when I called her a few days ago to tell her that we were intending to do this, she was very gracious and thanked me, but without missing a beat, she did also tell me that she expected that these funds would be filled so that child care providers could really use them. So she definitely used her opportunity to do that. I know that if she could be here today, she would be in the gallery with us and we would have the opportunity to acknowledge her. But we can't do that exactly today. She is watching us on TVW. And so I would ask you all to join me in rising and giving your applause and your thanks to Ruth Kagi.